Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Memory lane time. Old beer time. Dead beer time. Port Brewing. Older Viscosity. I can't remember the last time I had this beer. I was like, I know I've reviewed this. So I looked it up, and lo and behold, I reviewed this as beer number 6. So the 6th beer I ever reviewed on my channel was Port Brewing's Older Viscosity. Now, for those that don't know, Port Brewing was and is an offshoot of Lost Abbey Brewing. This beer and brewery is so old, because we'll get to the date on this beer when we get to it, that Port Brewing still kind of exists, but Lost Abbey still kind of exists, but they still don't. If you don't know, Lost Abbey has made some of the best beers in the biz. Tommy Arthur is the man. But they've hit struggles just like a lot of other breweries because, they really didn't lean into the hazy game and stuff like that. So even before this kind of like big kind of downturn on craft beer, they were struggling quite a bit. And they still do exist to a certain extent, but they sold off their equipment and they're kind of contracting, so who knows where they are existing at that point. But long before that even happened, kind of Port Brewing kind of took a little bit of a side. I know they kind of still exist in some form or fashion. I just realized my glass got a little bit of funk on it. But yeah, some of my more favorite beers, and like I said, it's been a very, very long time since I reviewed this. I reviewed it in 2013, like I said, review number 6, and I paid $18 for a bottle of this. I like the beer. I didn't watch the whole review, but I skipped the end just because I wanted to see my general impressions, and I liked it, but I was kind of taken back by the price point. You have to remember, $18 for a barrel-aged beer. This is non-spirit, it's oak barrel-aged, but even, nowadays, it's kind of like, okay, fine. This size, what is it, 500 mil probably, give or take. You're like, okay, whatever. Back then, not so much. But I came across this today. This is not a cellar thing. This is something I found on the shelf in Jersey, because that's how Jersey rolls. $7 American. That I will buy. So I figured, I grabbed it without even knowing the price, because I was like, I really want to re-review it, because it's just been so long, and I miss Port Brewing / Lost Abbey so much. I was very surprised by the price point, and we're talking about vintage 2011. So we're talking about a beer that is 13 years old. I actually think this is older than the beer I reviewed in 2013, which is kind of a goof, kind of a kick, too. So very long-winded, as if you don't watch my reviews, you know this is normal. So let's just dive into it and see where it goes. I mean, you're talking about, really skilled, epically good beer makers that are making a oak barrel-aged beer. Sure, extra component in there, but, probably bottle-carbed, core 4 beer. I think this might age really well, so let's see what's what. Port Brewing, it's Older Viscosity. You're not your dad's 30 weight. Malt beverage aged in oak barrels, portbrewing.com. It is 12% alcohol by volume. Port Brew Company, San Marcos, California. Inside here, story time. We'll try to rip through this as fast as I can. It says here, 3,000 miles, that's what your automaker recommends as the distance your car should travel before checking out that nasty old used up oil. Sure, yeah, right. Yeah, betcha. 3,000 miles and not a foot further, I'll get right on that. Except that isn't Older Viscosity. Nope, this is one seriously sludgy. I just traveled 10,000 miles sort of beer. It's the way we want to be. To make no apologies for the viscosity of this thing. Could you run your car on it? Well, we say most likely not, but again, we've never tried. Perhaps it could. At Port Brewing, we make Old Viscosity as one of our year-round... Ooh, there's an extra space in there. Nerd. Oh, no, it's... anyway. Sometimes I can't separate my job from my life. Anyway, year-round beers. A portion of each batch of Old Viscosity is aged for at least 6 months in used bourbon barrels. Each year, we also select some of the best barrels from our cellars and blend them together for release of Older Viscosity Ale. We'll let you decide which one you like better. Now, if you excuse us, we'd have an experiment. We need to conduct that old 53 Chevy out behind the brewery. There you go. Man, we are almost 5 minutes into this beer review, and I haven't even opened the beer yet. So, yeah, long-winded me. So let's see how this comes off. I think the pop and the hiss on this might give me a lot. No hot. No hiss, no pop. Back then is when you had a lot of corking going on. By corking it is what was it, VCA? It was affected cork stuff. So there's really not much as far as carbonation on this. Listen, 13-year-old beer, cork and gauge. That'll happen. Give it a little bit of a whirl. Get the absolute slightest bit of carbonation back. But we're talking about a thick, dense, big old bourbon barrel aged stout, so it can still kind of come through some really nice flavor, even though the carbonation has been lost on it. Dark as dark could be. You talk about motor oil. Sure, you get Florida thick beers nowadays, but back then, this is kind of the heftiest of the heft. So dark, rich. Let's give it a whirl, see what's what, nose-wise. It does smell good, man. It smells whiskey barrel aged, but I think that has a lot to do, excuse me, burps, with the time and the ABV on this sucker. So it's rich, kind of red fruits, a little kind of like soft bourbon character to it, a little bit of oak tannins flowing through there, vanilla, decent amount of vanilla, and a big rich malt base. Doesn't come off overtly bittering, not that you'd expect it with a 13-year-old beer, but you'd expect something like this to have a bit of bittering to it, being at its high ABV and barrel age. But I don't remember initially what the beer was, but in the grand scheme of things, it smells like a nice big rich Imperial stout with like bourbon characteristics, even though it's, again, used bourbon barrels, but it's more the age and ABV of the beer that's giving that off to you. So let's just dive in. Cheers. Man, if the carbonation was still here on this thing, we'd be playing with fire. And it is dead. It is dead, but there is tons to love about this beer, even though it doesn't really have much as far as any carbonation going. Big, huge gobs of chocolate here. Baker's chocolate, like on top of chocolate, on top of chocolate. Little zing of bittering, a little zing of heat too from this, from the ABV of this beer. Again, 12%, not huge, but you're definitely getting that in there. Those rich red fruits kind of come through, and really there is a ton of oaky vanilla in this. It's probably the coolest part of the beer is how much vanilla you're getting from just a straight kind of barrel. Again, a used bourbon barrel. How much is going to be left over from that, I don't really know. It depends on how long you've aged something. But for the amount of oak to be kind of, or vanilla-ish oak to be kind of delivered outside of that barrel, being that it was already used, and still get that in a beer like this is really, really cool. I mean, time has done it not great from a carbonation standpoint. Outside of that, I don't think it's crazy over the top oxidized. Sure, there's oxidation here. There's a little bit of dryness, a little wet paper, but it's nothing too aggressive. I think it's just a matter of this beer just kind of fell off carbonation-wise, and it just kind of sat, and it's now more like still beer than anything else, which I can get down with. Two things would help this beer for me. And it's one is obvious carbonation. If it actually had more carbonation or retained some of its carbonation, I think it would be an absolutely stellar aged beer. And two, it would have been ABV. You know, when beers kind of lose their carbonation, like this beer has lost, if they're 15 plus, I think they still come off quite grand. Because there's something about that alcohol richness and density. You know, you have that upper ABV just adds this kind of like just a fuller mouthfeel in general that it can survive that lack of carbonation. But as this beer sits, it's fun. Listen, it's a $7 13-year-old barrel-aged beer. This is absolutely fun to drink. I'm absolutely fantastically happy that I picked it up. And honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, this is something I do. I don't even know if I've really ever talked about this. When I get one of these lower carb beers, I'll try to find a bourbon barrel aged, something close to what I think this beer is, and try to pick something up or blend it, basically. Try to add carbonation to this beer by blending it with another beer that's very similar to that. And it tends to bring out quite a bit more of the beer. Sure, you get a little bit of taintedness from the other beer that you blended it with, but you can tell that, you know, there's something more than just that other beer involved here, and that carbonation, that added carbonation, even if it's not super full, but a little bit bigger, brings out a bit more in the beer in a very, very fun way. So I'm glad I picked it up. Again, not all these super agers can be winners. And if you look at this from a purely like taste standpoint, it's not like eye-opening craziness, but from the experience. Something so long ago to review a beer that was the 6th beer I ever reviewed, and to review a beer that was even older than the one I reviewed when I reviewed it, is just super cool, super fun. One of the reasons why I do this stuff. So, man, there you go. Port Brewing, older Viscosity, dying beers, dying breweries. Man, these are the places that should not go under, but have. And I'm glad I got to try this. They have some of the base old Viscosity and Cork and Gate 750s. I'm going to have to go back and try one of those. We'll do that. So there you go. Reviewing the books. One of the better barrel-aged stouts I've had is late. No, not really. But again, that wasn't the point. Value and availability. I mean, for $7, I'd rip these still off the shelves, hoping to get carbonated ones, and leave you with, if you like what we like this, if you like drinking old beer and having fun experiences, you will dig this too. Especially at this vintage. I don't even know if they make this anymore. There you go. Reviewing the books. Hopefully you enjoyed. Port Brewing. Have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? Have you had this beer back in the day? Have you had it recently? Have you had super old vintages? Were they carbonated? All that fun stuff. Put it down there. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying some aged beer right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.